Welcome to the Tiffany Micah podcast. What we do here is build the strength and courage in you to accomplish your big dreams and goals in your sport. No longer will you feel limited. You won't feel you're not good enough. You won't question whether you will make it. Those doubts will disappear because you will have the competitive edge over your opponents and leave them in your wake. And the bonus is others will notice. Listen up and take notes because I will show you exactly how to do it. Hey there, this is Tiff from Tiffany Micah Podcast and welcome to today's episode. This episode that I'm going to be talking to you about today, this topic that I'm going to be talking to you about today is very close to my heart. This was the one thing that I really struggled with in my tennis career especially, and to the point really that I ended up quitting on my tennis career at the age of 20, which is, looking back now, it's like 20 so young. And if you're 20 listening to this now, you know what? Just keep going. This is the time that you should be working on you. This is the time that you should be learning as much as you can. This is the time that you should be executing as much as you can and never giving up on you, right? You want to be developing really deep-seated belief and building confidence, building courage, and just going for it. Just do not give up on you. Because I don't want you to experience and go through what I had to go through, this long learning curve of really living with regret for 25 years. And I want to ensure that you're overcoming these things now so that you're really out there becoming the athlete that you want to become, but not just the athlete that you want to become, because however you operate as an athlete, you're going to operate the same way as a person in your life, and we want to ensure that you've got it, right? And what I mean by that, you've got it, is that you're confident, you believe in yourself, you have the courage, you're going to do what it takes, you're willing to learn, you're willing to get coached, you're willing to have disappointments and fight through the battles and the obstacles and the challenges that you're going to be faced with. Have the courage to do that because you are going to benefit from it so much. So do not give up on you. You've got to make me a promise that you are not going to give up on you. So at that time when I ended up quitting on my tennis career at the age of 20, the big thing that I had a problem was I was so frightened of losing because I was so worried about what my peers would think, what my coaches would think, what my family thought about how bad I would play in tournaments, that I was so worried about that, so frightened of losing, that I actually froze with fear. And this didn't happen all the time, this freezing with fear, but it happened enough to hinder me breaking through to the tennis player I wanted to become. And I don't want this to hinder you in any way. I don't want this to hinder you in becoming the athlete and the champion that you want to become. So if you're struggling and you're experiencing the fear of failure, then this is the episode for you. So what is fear? So here's the fear defined in the dictionary. An unpleasant emotion caused by threat of danger, pain, or harm. Another definition, afraid of someone or something is likely to be dangerous, painful, or harmful. And when we play sport, what's painful? What's painful in sport? It's losing, isn't it? It's incredibly painful. And I look back at probably the highlight of the most painful match that I've ever played in my life, and I was playing and I actually outline this in my upcoming book, Focus, How to Reach Your Potential in Sport, Business and Life, and I talk about it in this book. But I played this highly ranked Australian player who's playing on the tennis tour, and I was 19 at the time, maybe 18, but 18, 19 at the time, and I was just playing a tournament. She'd come back and she was training at the academy where I was training, and we played this it was just a weekend tournament. And what happened was that I felt so frightened that I was going to lose. I felt so intimidated by her because she was a ranked player and I wasn't. And I was so worried about what the people who were watching by the sidelines, what they were going to be thinking. And so what actually happened was that I ended up losing that match. And I lost it 6-love, 6-love. And because I was so focused on losing, I was so focused on other people, I was so focused on even what she thought of me, that I was lucky to hit a ball in the court. I think my first service game, I double faulted the whole service game. When we changed ends after I lost the first set, I was ready to set up and serve again. And she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, you just served the last game." I was so out of it. And it was all because I was so worried about losing and looking like an idiot. So the lesson learned here is when you get so consumed with not wanting to lose, where's your attention and where's your focus? It's focused on losing, isn't it? Or trying not to lose. What does that mean? Trying to just do enough? Enough of what? Or just hanging in there, just trying to scrape by. And you know what? You will not scrape by. Because you are so focused on not losing, you are so focused on failing. And this is why your mind is incredibly powerful. Your mind will expose you to the weak areas, and then you will fail and you'll crumble. Do you want to operate this way? No, of course you don't. You don't want to operate this way. You don't want to fail and crumble. But when you're focused on losing and not losing, that's really where the attention is. The attention is focused on losing. So your mind will try and figure out a way to show you how you can lose. I just want to share something with you. In the book, Outwitting the Devil, The Secret to Freedom and Success, it's written by Napoleon Hill, and it was actually written in I think it was written in around about 1937, 1938, somewhere around that time, just before World War II started. And Napoleon was writing about outwitting the devil and how the devil comes to you when you start to drift. It's quite a interesting book, and it was never printed or published, should I say, until 2011. And the reason for that was because Napoleon Hill's wife, for one, didn't want to have the book released, because this is my thoughts, that she may have felt uncomfortable by what was written. And because Napoleon actually interviews the devil here in this book. And I think that she felt incredibly uncomfortable by him releasing that. So he never did that, but the Napoleon Hill Foundation had it published in 2011. So it's a very interesting book. But what I want you to read to you is just this first part in the, just inside the cover here of the book, about fear. And fear is the tool of a man-made devil. Self-confident faith in oneself is both the man-made weapon which defeats this devil and the man-made tool which builds a triumphant life. And it is more than that. It is the link to irresistible forces of the universe which stand behind a man who does not believe in failure and defeat as being anything but temporary experiences. I'm just going to read you this last bit again. It is the link to the irresistible forces of the universe which stand behind a man who does not believe in failure and defeat as being anything but temporary experiences. Temporary experiences. That's all failure is. It's a temporary experience of something that didn't work so well. And when things don't work so well, and yep, sometimes there's going to be a loss, then how do we overcome that? And you're probably thinking, Tiff, how do we overcome that fear of failure? Or how do I overcome that fear of failure? So let's get into something practical, because if you don't overcome that fear of failure, in your eyes, you'll never be good enough and you'll always hold yourself back. And I don't want that for you. I want to ensure that you're getting out there and you're giving it all you got. You're out there achieving your big dreams and your big goals in your sport and in your life. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to develop courage. If you're listening to my previous episode, I was talking about developing your T code, your code for success. Well, the first thing that what we need to make sure that we're doing to help overcome this fear of failure is developing courage. So that's our number one. And you would have heard me in the T code, I read out I am courageous and why I am courageous as an affirmation, and then the reasons why. So if you haven't actually heard that episode of the T code episode, make sure you listen to that. Also, I did a whole episode on unshakable grit, which was all about developing courage. And the unshakable grit was part of the bloodline code that I recorded for you. So ensure that you listen to that. I will have a link for that also below wherever you hear this episode. But what I want to do too, and in that unshakable grit, I talked about developing a bravery strategy. And so the first thing that what we need to do is we need to ensure that we're actually developing this bravery strategy, because you're putting yourself out there. You're going to be vulnerable. You're going to have losses. You're going to have wins. You're going to have easy times. You're going to have tough times. But we need to ensure that we are developing a bravery strategy because we're putting ourselves out there. You've got to be proud of yourself that you're putting yourself out there. Overcoming fear is huge. It took me a long time to overcome fear of failure. And I want to help increase and quicken up the process for you is that if you're actually experiencing this fear of failure, one, we have to actually let it go, but we need strategies in place in developing how we can let those things go. So the first thing that I want to do with you is develop your bravery strategy. I have outlined this, as I said, in the Unshakable Grit Bloodline Code. But here we go, developing bravery. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to identify what scares you. And I want you to look at what scares you in your sport. I want you to look at what makes you feel uncomfortable in your sport. And let's just look in life in general. What's actually scaring you? Okay, so I want you to make a whole list of them. So here's some examples. Fear of losing, fearful of making mistakes, you're scared about people watching you play your sport, you're scared about certain opponents you play against, you're worried about what other people think of you. So make a whole list of actually what scares you. Then the second part, what we want to do is we want to develop your alter ego. And what that is developing you into the person that you want to become. So we want to make a list of things of who you want to be or what you want to be like. So here's some examples for you. Make your opponents tremble. Excited about competition because you are highly focused and tuned in. You love people watching you play. It brings out your determination to succeed. You love training hard and giving everything that you've got. You love sweat pouring off your body because you feel energized and you're never fatigued. You play with purpose because you deserve to be here. You play with courage. You play to set the example of excellence. So you can list a whole number of those things. If you like what I've shared here, then yeah, use that too. But to create what you want and who you want to become. Okay, it's really important that you do that. So what I do is I call myself the Tiffinator, and it was actually given to me by a lady I've taught golf with, over the years. She used to play really good golf, and then I'd appear and go and watch her play, and then she'd fall apart. So she'd call me the Tiffinator, and which I love it. I love being called the Tiffinator. So what you want to do is you want to create a name for yourself, for your alter ego, the one that you want to become. Because when you step into that alter ego, you stop worrying about losing. You stop worrying about who you're going to disappoint. You stop worrying about failing. So you step into this persona of this person that you want to become, and that's all you focus on. So when I step into the Tiffinator mode, watch out. You can't stop me. And the best thing is the Tiffinator only comes first in everything. So when I step into that mode, which I absolutely love, I'm out there achieving what it is that I want to achieve. And so we want to ensure that this is happening for you. We want to ensure that this bravery strategy that you're putting out there is actually happening for you. Now, the second thing that we want to look at is we want to look at overcoming this fear of failure, is that we want to ensure that we know what losing actually means. And losing actually means feedback. And I did a bloodline code as well called Embrace Failure as Feedback in quite detail. So I want you to ensure that you listen to that as well. So rather than thinking that you have to worry about losing and so on, what we want to do is we want to be looking at losing as feedback, because it's just teaching us lessons. And that's all it is. Everyone gets too consumed with, oh, gee, I'm going to look ridiculous. I'm going to look like a failure. I'm not going to be the person that I want to become. Will I ever get this? This is too hard. Okay, what are the lessons that you're learning from everything that you're doing? For one, you're focusing on the wrong thing. So we need to make sure that you're channeling your energies and your mental focus into things that are actually going to benefit you. So here's some simple questions for you to answer. There's 5 questions here for you to answer when we're looking at losing as just equaling feedback. So the things that you can be looking at, and again, remember, this is going to help you overcome the fear of failure, isn't it? So let's look at number 1. So number 1 is what worked well. So look at everything that's working really well for you. What are you doing really well? Are you training really well? What specific things? Your technique? What's really working really well for you? Then number 2, what isn't working well? So what didn't work? So have a look at those things that aren't working well for you. Again, it could be some technical things, could be some mental things. Obviously, it's mental if you're struggling with overcoming the fear of failure. Then look at number 3. What are the lessons that I'm learning from this? So what lessons am I learning from that's working so well? It's giving you the clues to success there. So you make sure that you keep doing those things. The things that aren't working so well. Well, what's not working well? Why isn't it working well? What's the problem? There may be some things that you're missing that you need to implement into helping you really get to where you want to go, but identifying what the problem areas are. I've got a big problem area at the moment because I set up my week, I plan out my week, but what's happening is because I've got a lot of teaching going on right now, I'm not structuring myself well enough to ensure that I get everything done for the week. So even recording content and so on, and recording episodes for the podcast show, it seems to stretch out a lot longer than what it did because I've got so many different moving parts going on right now. And so I keep looking at it every day. How can I improve it? How can I make it better? What are the things that I need to ensure that I'm doing to make sure that I'm getting my episodes done sooner in the week versus them, panning out throughout the week, because it takes a lot of time to prepare to get the episodes done. It takes a lot of time to edit and then upload and do what I do with them. So I'm looking at what's not working well. What are the lessons that I'm learning? So I'm aware of them, but it's taking some time to implement them. So that's the other thing. Give yourself that time, because it's going to be trial and error. Now, number 4, what do I do now I know the lessons, right? So like I was saying about the episodes and planning out my week, I'm not happy with the way I'm planning out my week. It's still not structured the way that I would like it to. So, okay, I know that. So I've got to make sure that rather than leaving my setup for for the week and I leave it till a Sunday afternoon, I've got to do it Sunday morning. So first thing that I've got to do is plan it out. And then I've also got to apply some specific things prior to Monday starting so that I'm ready to go. Whereas it sort of strings out a little bit to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I feel like I'm always chasing my tail, and I don't like that. I like to feel like I'm in control and moving forward. So that's what you've got to identify. And number 5, how do I apply the strategies into my next performance and competition? So everything that you're identifying what's going on through competition, even with your training, everything that's going on with your mental side, look at these lessons that you're learning. Look at what's working well. Look at what's not working well. Look at the lessons that you're actually learning from it. And then what do you do now? How do you apply those lessons that you're learning? There may be missing pieces. That's why then you need to go and find a coach to help you get through all of this, because they can help fill the holes for you. Number 3, and what I want you to do here is craft your T code. So make sure you go back and listen to that episode as well. I'll leave the link for that episode down wherever you hear this episode. But you want to develop that TIF code, or the T code as I call it, and of how you expect yourself to operate each day. And then what you want to make sure that you're doing with that is you want to repeat it daily. Okay, read it out or record it so that you can listen to that. That's incredibly important. So there's some things that you need to be doing here, isn't there, to overcome this fear of failure. So the first thing you want to do is develop courage and develop that bravery strategy. The second thing that you want to be doing here is that you want to identify that, you know what, failure or losing is just feedback. So let's embrace the failure as feedback, and let's get those questions answered so that I can ensure that I'm working towards achieving and accomplishing my sports goals and dreams. And number 3 is crafting your T code. And once you've crafted your T code, you repeat it daily, okay? Because we want to embody it. We want to feel it deep into our DNA that this is how we're going to operate. And just before I finish up today, just really exciting news coming up next month, and I'll share with you the actual release date, but coming up next month is my new book called Focus, How to Reach Your Potential in Sport, Business and Life. It's all about setting up that blueprint that's going to actually help you achieve what it is that you want to achieve in your sport. It's very geared around sport, but I'm a businesswoman as well, so I talk about a lot of business analogies in there too, and also life analogies, because everything that we do, and like I always say, everything that we do in our sport applies to the rest of our life. So I've created a blueprint for you, and right at the back of the book I've got a plan laid out for you, so how that you can actually work out and start accomplishing your goals and your dreams. But you need to be developing belief in you. You need to be developing that commitment, your dedication, consistency, everything that it takes, and that foundation is there for you in that book. So I really look forward to releasing that. I really look forward to you getting your hands on it and reading it, so that you're out there reading, not only reading the book, but I've posed a lot of questions in the book as well to help you think about where it is that you need to go. You're answering those questions, and then you're out actually accomplishing your big goals and your dreams in your sport and your life. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'd really appreciate if you could leave me a comment, what you like best about what you heard today, wherever you hear this episode. And I want you to dream big, believe in you, go after your dreams. Have an awesome day. Take care. Talk soon. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you haven't yet downloaded the #1 deadly mistake athletes make sure you go to tiffany-micah.com and download the #1 deadly mistake athletes make. Share with me what you like best about what you heard in the comments section wherever you hear this episode. Share with your friends that you know that would benefit from these episodes, and please leave a 5-star review wherever you hear these episodes. I would really appreciate it. Dream big, believe in you, go after your dreams. Have an absolutely awesome day.